Okay, we'll call the meeting to order of the Brawley City Council and successor agency to the Brawley Community Redevelopment Agency for March the 19th, 2013, 6 p.m. Roll call.
Record will reflect all members are present.
Thank you. Invocation. I think it's going to be you.
Shall we pray? Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you so much, Father, and what a blessing it is, Father, to be your child. Father, we thank you so much for all that you do for us and all that you do for our city and our children, Father. And Father, we thank you so much for our church and church families and all the teachers, Father, that we've received. And Father, the Scripture teaches us that when we pray, Father, that it shows our faith, Father, that we know that it may not be on our time, Father, but on your time, that you'll always be there for us. And Father, we know sometime when we pray, Father, that we ask you for forgiveness and the things that we ask for. And when you don't answer those prayers, Father, we realize that there's probably something better in store for us, Father, from you. And we thank you for that, Father. Father, we ask that you continue to watch over us and watch over our city, Father, watch over our employees and keep them safe, Father, keep them out of harm's way. And Father, we're going through difficult times right now. We ask that you help us with our budget crisis, Father, and all the things that's going on in the city, Father, that we make good, solid choices, Father, that's good for everyone that's involved here in the city. And Father, just an honor to be able to stand here today and say thank you so much, sir, for all that you do for us and forgiving us for our sins. And we ask all these things in your Son's precious name. Amen.
Amen. Mayor Pro Tem Miranda.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. We'll need an approval of the agenda with a couple of additions or changes. One, we need to vote on an emergency item, and that emergency item is related to the adoption of a resolution declaring an emergency, ratifying action taken by the city manager, and approval of emergency soil removal at the transit transfer station. And we would need to add that as an emergency item, and we would need to vote on that. Do I hear a motion on that?
I make a motion.
Second. Okay, and do we have a second? Okay. Any discussion? Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, the only question I have is I understand about the underground storage tank removal, but they did all the testing and they know where all the hot spots are, and so this is going to be exactly what it's going to cost to take care of it.
We have Ms. Arellano up here. The tank was initially removed. The surrounding area was tested. The test results have indicated that there are contaminants present that need to be immediately addressed in light of the public health hazard, as well as the timing demands on the project and the various pots of funds involved. We are requesting ratification of the action. So I think what you're asking, though, is this it? Is this total amount it?
Dealing with some of these issues, I understand how it is, and I don't want to put staff on the spot, but these figures are not real high dollars when you're dealing with something like this. But I've seen these kind of issues turn into, they get in there and they dig a little more and do a little more cleaning, and it just grows and grows and grows. And we're not in that situation, are we?
If I may, I think we're going to take this up as an item on the regular discussion, and so if we could do that when it does come up for that, then we could ask the questions. That's why we kind of put it on as an emergency item, so we could do that, and then the staff can come up and give us a full report on that. Okay. Also, we need to pull an item from consent, and that's item 3F, which is the approval of the general plan annual progress report. And are there any other items that anyone wants to pull for discussion from the consent agenda? Okay, if there are not, then...
He needs to redo his motion. His motion wasn't including that item.
Right.
So, yeah.
But his was, we did an emergency item, so we need to vote on that, right? And then we have to do another, I don't think we have to do a motion. Do we have to do a motion to pull that item? Put it on the regular agenda?
think you can do that in the context of approval of the agenda.
Okay.
You normally have a motion to approve your agenda, so I would recommend taking the action to
Add the emergency first, and then do the, okay. All right, so we'll vote on the motion that we have to approve the emergency item addition to the agenda. So all those in favor? Aye. Okay. Those
Dennis,
opposed?
you were referring to just adding the item as an emergency item when you're saying make the motion to approve the agenda. Is that correct? Or
No.
separately?
take a
That's a separate.
Yeah.
Okay, now I will entertain a motion for approval of the agenda with the pulling of item 3F and adding to the regular
I make
agenda.
a motion to approve the agenda, adding the emergency item and pulling item 3F.
Second.
Is it for a future date?
It's for discussion tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, do I have a second? Second?
Yes.
Okay, second from Miguel. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay. So now we go on to public appearances and comments, not to exceed 4 minutes. This is the time for the public to address the council on any item not appearing on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city council. The mayor will recognize you, and when you come to the microphone, please state your name for the record. You are not allowed to make personal attacks on individuals or make comments which are slanderous or which may invade an individual's personal privacy. Please direct your questions and comments to the city council. Does anybody have anything to do? Katie, please step forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. I would just like to encourage everyone to attend the public hearing for approval of the Joint Strike Fighter to try and get the EIS report amended and show Imperial Valley as a home base for the Joint Strike Fighter. And I have materials here if you need them and some comments that you can go and attend and make. It is Thursday at Southwest High School from 5 to 8 p.m.
Can you give those materials to the clerk and she will distribute them to the council?
And I'll also say that I have a petition here. So if you haven't already, and I think the City Council has signed that, but if you haven't already signed the petition requesting that it come here, this would be a good night to do it.
Okay. Are there any other public comments? Yes, ma'am. Please step up to this microphone.
Good evening, Mayor Sam and City Council. Greetings. My name is Pat Vela, V-E-L-A, and Rosanna. I love your city. I came here from Los Angeles, and I love your weather. I haven't been here for the summer yet, but
We can come back and address this then.
they
Come back and address
tell
this
me
then.
it's interesting. I wanted to comment. I don't know the city that well, but I missed this council meeting a month ago because I couldn't find this building. The lights were way too dim, and I noticed that in a lot of parts of the city. Now, I know this has been brought to your attention many, many times, and I won't bore you with going on about it, but I'm going to tell you a little story in that I couldn't find the city council building. I ended up at the library because they have two big bright lights that light up the parking lot also. And then when I got out of there, on my way home, I nearly ran over a little boy on a bicycle because I couldn't see him, and I do not have cataracts. So I just wanted to comment on that, and hopefully you will consider that because it is a health hazard. Okay? God bless you all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Eric.
Eric Reyes, 699 North 7th Street. I guess my issue is we attended the appeals board decision on the reassessment of the National Beef Plant. And without knowing what has happened since then, as the lawyer said, they would be in contact with the city. Just a couple of issues that are involved with it. One is that when we went to talked to the lawyer and we talked to the assessor, and it was explained to us how they came about their assessment. And in reading in the laws, the tax code laws, that's not how it's supposed to be done. and we're hoping that the city of Brawley will use its resources available. There's limited resources you can do as your third party to the issue, but there are issues you can do. And one, obviously, is making it, have the assessor and the county make it a public hearing so you can have the methodology as to how they came to that assessment. That's most important, I think, to us, those of us who attended and who understand how a public process could be. And I think the city of Brawley can set a precedent for this county, as many of us who, kind of watch these things and share these things, and there's very little accountability. And this is a particular issue that there's no accountability whatsoever that we were able to get out of just from the papers that were given to us. There were different figures given that the National Beef thought what their plant was worth, and then what the county had assessed it, and then what they agreed upon in negotiations. And I think you have to ask, is it worth it to you to find out what is the true assessment of that, what is the true value and assessment of National Beef? And there's things you can and can't do. The revenues lost, I'm sure you're compiling that. It'll run into millions over the course of the fact when you come in to try to get back to that assessment where it was. It'll take you forever to get back to that assessment. In the meantime, you've lost, to begin with, probably $500,000, and then over the course of its life, another $1 million to $2 million. So that's really important. And it's not going to cost a whole lot to get an independent assessment as well, something to consider, something we're just throwing out there. But I think the key issue for us, those of us who follow these things, is to use your resources as a public agencies to talk to other public agencies who are in charge of this, the county assessor's office, the board of supervisors who do have standing to make this a public hearing, so we know how they came to that assessment, that how it could be so disparate from what they believe and what the county originally assessed it, and now you're coming to this assessment. Now, how does that happen? There has to be a method. There has to be methodology. There have to be procedures followed. And the way they did it, again, was most particularly disturbing because it was going to be on the consent agenda. If the city had not contacted the assessor's office, it would have been passed on consent agenda. So not even the appeals board themselves would have had an opportunity to even ask as to the legitimacy of that new assessment. Those are just ideas. We can only, I as a citizen, a resident of Brawley, know the impacts will be, but I have no standing. The city of Brawley has no legal standing. It does have a standing as far as making the appeal for it to be a public hearing so we can understand how they came to this assessment. If there's things in there that can't be privy to the public, so be it. But there has to be some type of concrete methodology to understand how they come to that assessment. And I hope you pursue that to the furthest you can go. I know they might have contacted you. I don't know. We heard them say it was a negotiated assessment. That does not sound to me as sound methodology for making an assessment that's going to impact not just the city, but the school districts and the hospital board and so on, right? So I hope, and it's 5 years back or 4 years back, I'm not sure. The first one was 2008 or 2007, so obviously that's a ton of money already. And then going forward, it's much more. And in these times of crunching numbers and trying to stay within your budget, losing that type of money over something that is not overboard and accountable to the public to see how it's done, I just hope you pursue it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Okay. Anybody else from the public? No? Okay. Last chance. Last call. Okay. All right. Moving right along to the consent agenda. The consent agenda items are approved by one motion. Council members or members of the public may request consent items be considered separately at a time determined by the mayor. I'd like a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item 3F, which we would pull for the regular business agenda.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Okay. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Now we're moving down to regular business. And I'm going to put item 3F at the bottom. I'm going to take item 4A first. So 4A is the water, wastewater capacity fees and development impact fees implementation schedules.
Mayor Ketchman, we do have a brief presentation for the council this evening.
Okay.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council members. Yasmin Arellano, Public Works Director. I would like to present the capacity fee and impact fee proposal for increase this year. The capacity fee is a one-time fee charged to an applicant requesting a new service connection for water and wastewater. Its purpose is to recover the capital cost of water and sewer infrastructure on the city in response to growth. A development impact fee, it's a one-time fee charged to the applicant in connection with approval of a development project for the purpose of defraying all or a portion of the cost of public facilities related to the development project. The city performed studies during the year of 2010 for the capacity fees and also for the development impact fees. The costs considered on the capacity fees were only a portion of what was approved in the capital improvement program, and that was in order to keep some of the costs down. So we only took some major projects in consideration, and for the water, we took $49 million out of the $125 million per the CIP, and on wastewater, we took $54 million in projects out of the $116.5 million in the CIP. And I have the projects that we took into consideration if at some point you would like me to go over this.
The mic's a little hot.
Thank you. The handling the water wastewater capacity fees first. This was the original recommendation by the Planning Commission and also by Council, and was to, during the year of 2011, to increase 40% at one time, and that's currently what we have. We didn't have an increase during the year 2012, and then to raise 15% each year until we got to 100% in the following 4 years. So what it's proposed this year is to increase 15%, and that would bring the water and wastewater capacity fees for a single home family in the vicinity of $7,000. This is a fee comparison in the capacity fees. The blue shows existing, and the red shows what it's proposed. As you can see, we put the neighboring jurisdictions, and basically right now we're in the vicinity of the high $5,000, and like I said, the proposed is a little over $7,000. Going into development impact fees, the recommendation was to do it in a three-part during 2011, 13, and 15. This year, we would be scheduled for a 30% increase. And I'm going to go to the next slide to show that comparison. And this is the comparison with the neighboring jurisdictions. The green shows existing, and the red shows a proposed for 2013. I would like to ask Council if you would like me to go into the describing the projects that we utilize as this graph. I'm going to go a little bit back. Graph reflects the city of Brawley is kind of low on the capacity fees, and comparing some jurisdictions, I mean, we're still low when we combine both of them. It may be helpful to Council to know that relative to this item being placed on tonight's agenda, we did do some pretty robust outreach through our building department. We went through our list of active contractors in the city of Brawley, did notices to all those folks, as well as a 2-week advance notice to the Desert Valley Building Association as well as the Building Industry Association. There are 2 comment letters that are the city is in receipt of. There are specific requests from the authors of those letters to read their comments into the record at a time of the mayor's choosing. And with that, we do have a recommendation before you tonight, which is to implement the Schedule 2013 water and wastewater capacity fees at an increase of 15% and the development impact fees of 33%.
Do we have any comment from council members? If we do, now would probably be the time.
We could discuss them individually. I think that would make most sense.
Okay. So do we want to start out with water? The water fee? I think we see it. Yes. Yeah. The water capacity fee, yes. We want to start with that. Any comments from council members or discussion?
The current capacity fee is for 3/4-inch residential service is $3,014.80, and with the 15% increase, it would increase that to $4,100 and
45.
change, right? So
45.
yeah, okay. I would really be in favor of increasing fees on the impact side, but the wastewater capacity fees I'd consider looking at.
Right. I think I don't necessarily have a problem with this fee here because it puts us kind of in a kind of a mid-range on some of the other ones. The wastewater I'm certainly more concerned with, looking at the chart that we have there.
The impact fees you're talking about?
Yeah.
It doubles.
Yeah, because it doubles, and I'm a little concerned about that.
Well, it increases at 33%.
Yeah, 33%, which almost doubles.
4,000 to 8,000.
Yeah.
And we knew that a couple of years ago this was going to come to.
Right.
We didn't do anything last year with either, so.
Right.
We left them all the same. I think we deferred it last year and didn't increase anything.
Okay. My question was today, and I talked to the city manager, is about this impacting the residential side of things. And to get some more clarification on that.
Would you like me to comment
Yes,
on your
please,
question?
please.
There were actually a number of inquiries that came forward from members of the council this morning following the article that ran in the IV Press. The article that ran in the IV Press left some residents with the impression that these were water and wastewater increases, rate increases, not fees as a result of new development. So what you're considering tonight is not water and sewer rate increases, nor is it annexation fees. We are talking about water and wastewater capacity fees attached to new development, as well as development impact fees associated with new development.
So right now, I'm sorry to interrupt.
And again, thank you, Rosanna, for explaining that. That way the public knows that, because the public had a real mixed feeling and not much clarification on what those increases were. So that way everybody knows exactly what that is. Thank you, Rosanna.
So the proposed increase here would be $2,047.65. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yes. And if I may, these are only projects that have to do with development. It doesn't address our existing problems, such as the raw water storage for 7 days, taking care, we want to expand, and especially our commercial corridor, taking care of a bottleneck that we have along Highway 86. So those are the things that the capacity fees will be funding.
Mr. Mayor, I did receive an email from Stuart Schellen. He did ask me to read it into the record. If I may, I would like to read that.
I think that would be fine. Yeah.
It's from Stuart Schellen with Westmount Properties. It was sent Monday, March 18th. It's addressed to me and the rest of council. The subject is email for submission to March 19, 2013 City Council meeting regarding development impact fees and water wastewater capacity fees. It says, Dear Mr. Nava, this email serves as our comments in respect to the March 19, 2013 City Council meeting, regular business agenda, item 4B, water, wastewater capacity fees and development impact implementation schedules. We ask that you please submit a copy of this email at the meeting and read it into the record. Honorable Mayor and City Council members, City Manager, and other City staff, we respectfully request, similar to the decision taken by City Council in 2012, that the developer impact fees and water wastewater capacity fees not be increased at this time. The market is still in its very early stages of recovery, and it is still extremely price sensitive and uncertain. The current housing market and the ability to sell product is also strongly influenced by the lending environment, and nearly all of our sales at Florentine Collection are contingent upon mortgages, including many FHA and other strict loan programs. The ability of buyers to receive loans depends upon obtaining supportive appraisals and passing strict lender underwriting in an environment where appraisers and lenders are extremely cautious and conservative. As well, margins which dictate the economic viability of continued construction activity are still constrained and would be subject to highly detrimental effects by fee increases. We recently entered into an agreement with the city which thankfully addresses the issues of completing Panel Road. We remain appreciative of the city's efforts in reaching that agreement. We are hopeful that with the completion of Panel Road, that sales at Florentine will be bolstered. However, it is our respectful opinion the fledgling housing market in Brawley still needs encouragement and assistance in order to grow and reach its potential in the years to come. Fee increases at this time would have a disproportionately negative and stifling effect on that market, and we ask that fees be kept at their current levels for another year. Indeed, when housing construction is one of the leading contributors of new jobs to any community, and new homes lead to increased commercial activity, we believe that in order to protect the overall recovery of the economy in Brawley, maintaining fees at their current fee levels is something that makes much sense for the entire city of Brawley community. It's addressed by Stuart Challen, Sartan Nahar, LLC. So that was his email message to the council.
There is a second letter that was also submitted for the council's consideration. If you'd like me to read it into the record, or somebody else would like.
You can go ahead and read it into the record.
So this email was sent by Mr. Daniel Dobron of Jupiter Ventures and Pacific West Development. It was sent to the attention of our building official, Francisco Soto, in addition to a number of staff and our city council. I was planning on attending the City Council meeting tonight, which I was told is set apart from the discussion of implementing the much higher sewer water capacity fees that were approved and ratified by City Council back in 2011. Unfortunately, I've been sick for the last couple of days with a sore throat and will not be able to be in attendance. I've copied City Manager Rosanna Moore and all City Council members on this email so that it can be read into the official record for tonight's meeting in my absence. The City of Brawley obviously adopted a new fee schedule for sewer water capacity fees in 2011. As I understand it, the new fees were set to increase over time. We, along with all other current developers within the city boundaries, have been opposed to the adoption and implementation of these new fees since we found out about it in 2010. Besides the fact that we feel the city did not take to correct measures in adopting this new fee schedule, it is evident that the fees being assessed and set to be instituted on April 25th, 2013 are unwarranted. Specifically, as it pertains to new home construction, the amount of new homes being built in the city of Brawley is extremely minimal, and its impact on the existing infrastructure is correspondingly minimal. Additionally, Jupiter Ventures 3 LP is still being held up by the city of Brawley in its pursuit to build any new homes. This has been the case since its acquisition of the property in July 2010, almost 3 years now. We've been asking repeatedly for the city to sit down with us and discuss how to move the project forward so that we can build new homes right away. Our requests have been to no avail. We still plan on building in the city of Brawley once we're able to sit down formally with the city staff and resolve these items pertaining to the La Paloma project. With this being the case, our position remains unchanged that the fees in question that are set to go into effect as of April 25th, 2013 are not only unwarranted but unsustainable. The market has showed small signs of recovery, and to institute these new fees at this time would be a mistake. My hope is that the city will take a hard look at these new fees that are set to take effect, understand where developers are coming from, both residential and commercial, and suspend implementation of these new fees for at least another year. I certainly am very disappointed that I have owned 140 finished lots within the city of Brawley's jurisdiction for 3 years now and have not been able to do anything with my land, which obviously has caused financial hardship. Please make sure that, as stated above, my statements are known at the City Council meeting tonight and are officially read into the record. Please let me know what the outcome of the meeting is once available. Thank you, Francisco, for letting me know about the meeting, and I am sorry that I cannot be in attendance. I really wanted to be present at this meeting to personally voice my opinion regarding this matter. Please confirm receipt of this email. Thank you. Daniel Dobron, CEO of Pacific West Development.
Okay. Anything else that we have to read into the record? Okay. Well,
I'd like to go ahead and few comments and a question as well. Reading up again, my understanding again, this was a fee schedule that was adopted by the council a couple years ago now. And I understand we've taken an action now for any increases to have to come through council action. So in understanding that, it appears obvious that we deferred last year in light of the economic conditions. My only comment is that in light of the letters that were read, I understand it's a sensitive issue with regards to development, but so are the city's needs, and I believe that we have stepped back and we did defer 1 year. My opinion is there's really no point to a schedule if we don't adhere to it somewhat. It's really, to me, kicking the can down the road. The other thing is my comment about developers and our market. We certainly want to create every incentive possible for development to continue in Brawley. And I think as a council, something we've really come together on is many methods for doing that. In my opinion, what's dictating this market is not a scheduled 15% increase in a fee. It's demand. It's supply and demand. There are many other market forces, I think, that are going to drive home buying. Certainly the lending market's a big part of that. So, again, my opinion is it's going to be important as we move forward, we consider this vote that we passed a schedule, and I think there was a lot of experts within our city and our staff that have chimed in to prepare that, and we need to be very careful about what we do tonight with regards to what it's going to look like 2 years from now, 3 years from now, or all the way to 2016, as this schedule indicates.
George?
The one thing I would say, in 2011 there was an increase. It was significant. So that, I think, is something to consider now. With respect to with developers, there's still a lot of REO inventory. So lenders aren't necessarily, or developers aren't necessarily building considerably. So, postponing this another year, I'm not sure is going to have a big impact on the city. So.
Okay.
I listened to the letters that was read, and I can remember us meeting over at the Lion Center and taking somewhat of a whooping for not implementing some of these fees and putting things off, and when you go out and you ask for assistance from the community, when they said you had an opportunity to take care of some of that, and you chose not to. And I don't think this council has delayed or impacted these developers as far as taking care of some of these projects and stuff that's on hold right now. I don't think we hampered that. And I understand the economy the way it is right now. When you increase anything, it makes it difficult. But I still think that we need to weigh in on what is going to be the impact if we don't take action.
This is for new development, so.
I totally understand that, George, and I do, and I'm hearing what Donnie is saying too. It comes a time when you have to look at these things and understand that this small of a fee is not going to dictate somebody building a home in El Centro or Clexico or somewhere else. So we need to weigh all of that and think about this real serious and make a decision.
I agree. It's just the market is very different in Brawley than it is in El Centro. So the impact fees, I've never liked comparisons for that reason. House prices are different. The market's different. So from my perspective, it's like margins are slim. As you know, I'm in the housing business, so margins are very slim. And anybody trying to develop a new house when there's ample inventory of REO properties that don't have to pay impacts, I mean, it's difficult. So, when you start adding the figures up, I mean, if you just look at the water and wastewater capacity fees, that increase of 15% it amounts to $2,047.65. Now, could we move forward on the slides there?
Yes.
I'd like to wait until we have everybody give a little bit of a talk. Before we move on to the other stuff, I'd like to let Miguel give his talk.
Yeah. Many years ago, Brawley had the impact and capacity fees very, very low. And, we had to move it up 3 years ago when we first started. I actually haven't seen that much of development increase for the exception of the Natasha Chandy group that we were able to bring in. We made a commitment. We made a decision. We also stated that we will play it on each type of development. Maybe perhaps we can go back and change that fee or not on an individual basis. I don't know where we have increased our fees within 1 year from actually a year and a half from the last time it was changed. If we haven't, why is it that we have to increase it now? Maybe we can wait another year. I mean, that's the way I see it. That's my prerogative.
One thing I would like to say, when I came on the council, it appeared that we had not raised fees in many, many years. And I think part of the problems that we've had are directly related to that, because as fees are not raised at least a small amount every year or to meet up with inflation or whatever's going on out there, then I think what happens is that our infrastructure suffers. And so one of the things that I see from fee increases, small fee increases, maybe similar to this, is that we maintain a certain level of funding for that infrastructure that is a positive thing, and we don't have to raise it 150%. Every 10 years or 20 years or whatever happens. I think if we raise it incrementally, we can always take a fresh look at it. Last year we didn't raise it at all. Maybe this year we need to raise it. Maybe next year we look at it. If no development's occurring, we can always make a decision to not raise it at that time or defer the raising of that fee until the following year. So I think it's very, very important, and I think it's a hard decision on the council to raise any kind of fees for anyone out there, but it's also a necessity, I believe, because otherwise then the people that come after me on the council, they're going to have to raise it, and then they're going to have to raise it a lot more than maybe I'm raising it right now. So that's something I think we have to take responsibility for our time and place on the council and make the decisions that we need to make. And I think in this situation, I don't think it's raising it too much. We could certainly take a look at those percentages, but I think right now we kind of have to stay with a schedule at least to some extent. So that's what I have to say. If you want to move to the next.
Well, if we would have, let's say, for example, we would have followed through with the 15% last year in 2012. Right. That would have, if you would have considered the 40% with 15% and another 15%, I mean, that's significant.
Yes.
And so that's a significant change to any developer. And so it's when it comes down to dollars and cents, if you look at it, I mean, that's thousands of dollars.
Right.
There was a 40% increase in 2011. Is the economy strong enough to support that? I don't know. My feeling is that it's not. House prices are low. When you're considering that impact fees and wastewater capacity fees are accounting for 10% of the cost of a home, that's considerable. So,
and I agree in it. The only thing I'll chime in on that though is one sure way to make it uninviting for a developer is a failing or an underfunded infrastructure of any city. So obviously that's an extreme statement. I'm not saying this 15% is going to make or break that, but I'm really concerned about chipping a little at a time. The more we kind of kick that can down the road, as I already said, that decision's still going to be facing us down the road. So I'd much rather see an incremental increase out of need. And I think as a council, there are many other methods we can do to assist our developers in accommodating them and creating incentives here in this city.
Okay. Do we want to vote on this as separate issues, or do we want to go on with the discussion on the other? Okay. So I would entertain a motion for these water and wastewater capacity fee issue only. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll go and make a motion that the council considers the 15% increase for the water capacity and wastewater capacity fee for year 2013.
I second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on these items?
Mr. Mayor, just a comment. I want to make sure that the record is clear that what you're doing is implementing an already approved fee.
Right.
I heard reference in some of the correspondence to new fee.
Right.
And the word new always conjures up all kinds of potential problems in terms of how you implement something that's new. Really, this isn't new. This was what was vetted back at the hearings you were referring to. And this just has to do with the implementation.
Just to refresh everybody's memory, we also talked about how we would evaluate it on a yearly basis.
Right.
This is what we're doing now, but I don't know if right now is the right time to do this. I think if we move forward, it's going to be a mistake. But, that's my opinion.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Okay. Then I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
No.
Okay. Okay. Motion carries. Okay. Moving on to the development impact fees. Okay. Any discussion from the council on these fees and this schedule?
I would ask a question. Is there any, for I'm sure the public as well as my benefit, refresh the schedule as far as when it was originally put together a few years back? It seems obviously a little bit more aggressive. Is that the nature of impact fees, that they need to increase by that much in order to achieve 100%?
This was the original schedule, and I've been doing research through different cities. I ran into, I think City of El Centro did it over 5 years. Other cities did it at a 1 year, 100% increase. So I guess it depends, but this was the schedule that was recommended by the Planning Commission and by Council during 2010.
Okay, Gordon, did you have something you wanted to add? Would you step up to the mic, please?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Gordon Gates, Planning Director. Just to clarify, the impact fees are in a 2-year schedule. That's why they're at 33%. The capacity fees are in a 1-year schedule over 5 years, so that's where they were half of it.
Yeah, 2011 to 13, 13 to 15.
But we also didn't defer these last year as we did the 15% the previous year in 2012 for the water and wastewater capacity fees.
There was no scheduled increase in 2012.
Right, there was no scheduled increase. So it's 2 years. It's 2 years in process. There was another chart that you showed. Is that relevant to this?
No, this was the second one, the first
chart. Comparison chart.
The comparison chart.
Yes.
I have some concerns with that because of and I know that we don't always compare ourselves to other cities because we look a little different, but my concern there is that I still think we have to maintain some competitiveness in terms of attraction of development and development within our city, and I have some concerns that suddenly Brawley is going to be up here and the existing ones are all down here, including El Centro, which is a much larger city, although they do have some economy of scale. I would have to say that there are some real issues there, I think. If we do this, I think that we probably don't have any development occur in our city if they can do it less expensively somewhere else. If it's around the same figure, I don't think anybody's too concerned with that. If it's much, much, much higher, then I think that developers would kind of, they would certainly look at other options.
Right.
And that's something.
I think it was a balanced act. As you can see, the previous cities were one of the lowest on the capacity fees, and they have a much higher capacity fee already adopted. And so I guess in order to balance, when it's all-inclusive, we're in range.
Yeah, I think we're in range, but we're balancing it in an odd way, I would think, and so I have some concerns there. My concern is that we're
4,000 to 8,000.
From 4,000, say, to 8,000. Are the other cities looking at this also? Are they raising theirs? Do we have any information on that?
City of Imperial will be raising theirs this summer from information that I got from their planning director.
Okay. My only concern is you're really almost doubling, and that's, to me, in 1 year, and that's and then we're going to do that again in the next 2 years, and so I'm a little concerned about that. I mean, that does give me pause for concern, and I'm wondering if there's other options available to us.
Not sure if it would be helpful or not. We did have many iterations of this presentation before arriving on a final. There is a slide that I can quickly upload onto this computer that'll show you the combined figures. So you see relative to impact fees and capacity fees, what are you loading into the figure in total? It's kind of difficult to capture it this way because of the two subject matters being separated.
Right.
Okay. This one has it here. Okay.
So, ask a question maybe while you do that, Rosanna, that's possible. But if I can quiz my fellow council member a little bit, members a little bit more, going back to 2011. What was the rationale in 2011? Because I know that the housing market wasn't a whole lot better. The lending market wasn't a whole lot better. I would assume quite a bit of research and input was put in from both planning and as well as city staff. So how did we come to that conclusion going back 3 years ago versus where we are today?
Our fees were pretty low 3 years ago, and then with the 33% increase, or the percentage of increase that occurred at that time, that put us up to this $4,000, close to the $4,000 level. We jumped up considerably, as you can see. We almost were at El Centro's level, and there was some talk about that also. Calexico was higher, but we worried about Imperial and Holtville even at that time. Because theirs is, as you can see, are much lower than ours. At the time that we implemented the increases, our fees were much lower. So,
but I believe there was a schedule that was looked at that time. Yes. What was the rationale for this schedule?
This is based on a study that's performed by an outside entity. The outside entity looks at, for development impact fees, they look citywide at impacts associated with parks, PD, fire. It's many of the disciplines of the city. I don't believe all of the potential factors were included, but you can see with those that were, it still was a relatively aggressive schedule to account for impacts to future city facilities, if that helps to.
Sure.
Well, yeah. I think, unfortunately, for not raising fees in an increment fashion over the years is what kind of causes this. So,
but I still have some concerns when we have El Centro at 4,000, say 4,300, whatever they're at, and then we have ourselves going to almost $8,000. I think that's going to be a problem for us.
Well, our needs are different, though. That's where we are.
My understanding is there is an aggregate figure between the capacity fee as well as the impact fee.
I think they do have that.
Right. Okay.
And I would like to see that.
Yeah, I apologize for not having uploaded, but doing the comparison for the all-inclusive fee, which is the capacity fee with the impact fee with the Imperial Valley cities, Brawley and the second step, which both for, in this case, for capacity, step 2 capacity fees and step 2 impact fee, would be in the vicinity of $15,500. Where right now El Centro, it's at $21,000. Calexico is at $13,000. I think it's at $12,000, and Imperial is in the vicinity of $7,000 and change. However, Imperial will be updating their impact fees, and according to information that I got this afternoon, City of El Centro is running with 2010 adopted fees, and they're probably looking already into another study.
Can we compare Brawley to Brawley? Just what's now and what's proposed, total figures?
Yes, Brawley to Brawley would be what's now in total figures. We're looking at we're looking at the vicinity of $8,000 right now. Give me 1 second. No, it's 7,000.
Seems about right. 4 plus.
Council just increased it by $2,047.65.
See, right now we have $3,978.81 on impact fees, and on the water capacity fee current that we have is it's $3,015, and the wastewater capacity fee is $2,445. So that it's we're in the vicinity of $10,000 right now, current, and all inclusive with the step 2s, we would be moving to $15,500.
Right in range.
Just another observation also, we were talking a little bit about the inventory, the current inventory. I don't want this to sound like just, myself, this is all about just increasing fees. I think we all agree that there's a need here, and I would even go as far as asking what would be the impact of not. And to me, it would be, I'm sure there would be a figure, of what we may or may not collect depending on what projects we have. But when the time be now versus when we have a lot of potential development coming our way, I would think that would be almost counterintuitive to want to do that when we have a lot of suitors. If anything, maybe now is the time to get to stick with this and allow us to move forward and continue doing what we do as a city. I think attracting new development. Now, that is not saying anything adverse about our current development projects, but I do believe, if anything, right now you could say we're at a low with respect to new building. Is that not maybe a better time in comparison to a time where there may be a lot of projects in the pipeline? I don't know, and that's kind of the question.
You have a developer who's invested millions of dollars in our city, okay? And now you're asking them to pay even more money to develop further. They're the only ones out here doing anything, really, except for the small mom and pop, and those are impacted as well. Yeah. So you're asking people to pay an additional, you guys just approved it, not me, but you all did additional $2,000 just as a capacity charge, okay, for a new development. Now, there's not a bunch of developers knocking down our doors to build here. House prices are low. Rates are low, but house prices are low too. So to be able to absorb those costs gets expensive. And the one thing I want to emphasize is whenever you're looking at cost, you have to use a multiplier because it's not one house they're building, it's multiple. So if you're increasing fees by $5,000, multiply that by 100 units or 50 units, that adds up considerably. And yes, that is, of course, benefiting the city as well. But, not all of those units are going to be built at one time. So if we were to delay action right now, how many houses are being built? Francisco, maybe you can help answer that question.
In 2012, there were only 5 single-family dwellings built. 5
single-family dwellings built, okay? We have a developer who's invested millions of dollars. I mean, are we really going to lose over 5 houses built, but we're also giving them an opportunity to continue to build? I mean, I don't see right now as being a time to increase fees.
Well, and there's a couple, and I respect that. I really actually do understand part of that. I just know that, again, moving forward, it kind of made my point. If we were looking at 5 houses now, again, are we penalizing the existing developer? I do not believe that capacity fees have been the difference maker on why a developer has not moved forward or not. So again, there are many factors.
There are small developers. Who took out those permits, Francisco? Garcia Construction. They're not multi-million-dollar developers, and it's like the homes that they're selling are low-priced homes. So they're absorbing that. It's not, there's not a lot of margin in these things. So, it is what it is.
Don?
I'm not in favor of increasing fees today, so just so you know.
I understand where George is coming from, and we respectfully agree and disagree from time to time. But our fees have been really, really low over the years, and it's kind of hurt us. It's hurt us in a lot of facets in the past. So, I think it's time that we look at the schedule. We ask staff, and we've hired other folks and professionals to help us put these schedules together, and we've voted and approved on these schedules, and I think we need to move forward. I really do.
Part of our commitment, though, I remember it clearly, is that we would offer an opportunity for developers to contact us, and we would consider their thoughts, and we'd consider, we're not economists up here. Let's not, we're not that smart. So we need to really consider what the people in the industry are doing, too. And, there's a time to do things. I understand your point of view, Donnie, in that, maybe it's better to do it when there's fewer. But, who's to say that? We're not economists. We don't know that for sure. So, at any rate.
Miguel?
Same as Councilman Nava, I don't want to say that I came prepared to increase fees, but I personally don't think at this time is an appropriate time to increase the fees. Shame on me for supporting it 2 years ago, but we had to. If this would have been done 10, 15 years ago with our fellow council members, maybe we would not be on the boat sinking now. I do believe in increasing the fees, but not today. Basically, we only have built 5 houses. We'll survive. And next year, maybe, hopefully the economy will increase. It's nationwide being a lot effective, and that's basically my...
I suppose I have a question. If we wanted to reduce the amount we were going to charge in terms of the percentage, if we were going to take a lesser amount, is that a viable option based upon our schedule and how we adopted it? Are we able to do lesser amounts based upon this an observation of the economy, how many houses are being built? Are we able to say, instead of whatever the figure might be there, are we able to reduce that by half? Are we able to reduce it by 25%? What's our option?
I think this council could, if you were going to defer a portion of the scheduled increase. I believe legally you could do that and not jeopardize the original adoption.
Guys, look. We went to this community about utility tax and different things, and telling people that we want to take care of business and take care of our city. And when it comes time for us to approve things that we've put in place already, and then to vote against it, what are we telling the community?
We're not running the community with impact fees. We're not running the community with capacity fees. That's not the way it works.
George, I understand that, but what we're doing is to vote against this. What staff and what our city manager is recommending is we're voting against something that's going to benefit the city for development coming in, knowing what these numbers are coming in. It's not like we blindsided them and charge them these fees later.
There's a reason why they're opposed to them, Don.
But I understand, bro.
Gentlemen, yeah. But we also voted to defer last year. So what my concern there is that we make the decisions that we see as best at any given time. We talked that we would analyze each of these, we would go through them, and we would make decisions at that existing time. Not necessarily automatically increase based upon the fee schedule that we had, but make a real concise decision based upon the facts that are before us and whatever is before us. I think there's some give and take in these fees as we see the economy, and I think that was part of our discussion when we deferred last year in terms of some of these fees that we would look at the economy and see if it was recovering sufficiently to support a large increase in fees. I have some major concerns with the amount, simply because I think we're going to be, and if the other cities had raised theirs accordingly, I think we would be in a position to do so also. But I do think that we lose some of our competitive edge by doing too much fees. I think that certainly we need to raise them periodically, maybe every year, but it's not not necessarily 33% or 40% or whatever we're trying to do here. But that's just my opinion.
Guys, we just watched a presentation here a few weeks ago about some of our infrastructure. What was those numbers to take care of that?
Right, and I watched the presentation also, but I also believe that in 1 year you don't necessarily, or 2 years, you don't necessarily make up for 20 years of neglect.
I understand.
And so that's one of my concerns.
Where do we start at?
I think we started.
In 2011, we started. There was already an increase. We didn't. It's not like it hasn't been started. It's been initiated.
Let's call for the question.
Well, there's no motion yet.
I make a motion. We do not increase the development impact fees at this time.
Second.
Okay, well, I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Further discussion.
Well, what I'm hearing is that we do have some capability of splitting the difference, for no other way of putting it. And in respect to what you're saying, Mr. Mayor, about maybe you have an issue with the amount, I certainly agree with Councilmember Nava in and of. I'm not trying to be an economist, but in an effort to show some compromise here, is there a way, are we able to do something like that and lessen the amount of that impact fee?
Yes, I think you can defer, like you've did originally. You could defer a portion of the already approved schedule. So it doesn't have to be. It's not an all or nothing thing. If you get it right.
We do have a motion on the floor, though, and the discussion centers around that motion, and the motion is to not raise fees at this time. Now, additional motions can be made after that vote is taken.
Yeah.
But up until
I'm just bringing it up during discussion. So
right,
yeah.
Got it. I mean, and that's kind of my feeling is I don't necessarily not want to raise things. I'm just concerned that we had 5 dwellings. How many are we going to have if we raise it up to the existing level? Are we going to have very many more? Is that going to be a major factor? Maybe it isn't. And I don't know. I don't know what moves through the minds of developers because I'm not one of them. But it's just something that that I have to consider in terms of the overall impact. So, any other discussion? If not, I'll call for the question.
Mr. Mayor, did the motion include to when? I gather what we're talking about is the 33% schedule for this year.
Right. Correct.
The motion is to not implement that already scheduled. Does your motion include when that would be?
If I could add an item, I'll retract my motion. If I could and make a new motion, would that be appropriate?
Yes, you can.
Okay. I make a motion
with the concurrence of the second ultimate.
Okay. Mr. Miranda, would you concur?
I sure would.
Okay. I'll make a new motion that we do not increase development impact fees, or we postpone the 33% increase until 2014 for evaluation at that time. Would that be appropriate, Dennis?
Yes.
Okay. So that's my motion.
Second.
Okay, I have motion and a second. Any discussion on the new motion? Or the amended motion, I suppose I should say. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Okay.
Couchman and Wharton were no's.
No.
No.
Don.
Oh, sorry.
Don Campbell and Wharton
Donnie
were
was
no's.
no's.
Everybody else was yes. Okay. I'd entertain another motion if anyone
Well,
would
it's
like
already
to make
passed.
it.
It's passed.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
I heard 3.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Moving right along. All right. Anything else on that item? Nope. Okay. Okay, now we'll go to 4B. Discussion Keystone Planning Area, County Service Area, Formation, Water, and Wastewater Planning Studies.
So, Mayor Couchman, this is an item that's intended to be a discussion item. I am hoping to bring this item back for the Council's formal consideration at a future meeting in April. Wanted to make you aware of a letter from the Planning and Development Services Department at the County of Imperial asking the city to revisit a resolution adopted by the Council in 2008. And that resolution basically goes on record, the city goes on record stating its openness to looking at engineering solutions to serve the Keystone planning area, which is an area generally described as south of Brawley and north of Imperial, the city of Imperial, to serve that area potentially with water services from our city plant, and to potentially look at utilizing a shared wastewater facility and diverting some of our own waste streams on the south end of the city to a future plant to be located somewhere south of our current boundaries. This was a topic of considerable discussion back in 2008, and more than anything, I wanted to be sure and place it on your radar for some dialogue to occur on the subject in the future. Should the council wish to do it tonight, you're certainly welcome to do so. The county is requesting an update from the city on your current position.
I remember this
I
remember this taking place, and I have several questions. I think at the time the council granted approval for our city manager to just dialogue with the other cities in the county on this issue. But speaking for myself, before we even get into discussions, we need to see what these numbers look like if we're going to be discussing engaging in this project.
So at this point, a very preliminary look has been taken at the potential solutions. I don't think there are numbers available to share with the council. It's rather a request to determine, does the city remain interested in looking at serving an area outside of the city boundaries to the south with water service. And if you look at page 57 of the agenda, they're actually from, on the water end of things, there are two alternatives that are called out. One is design and construction of a new water plant within the Keystone planning area that would function independent from the city of Brawley's infrastructure. A second alternative would be for us to serve that area to the south with additional capacity that would be expanded at our current plant, which is located on the south end and perhaps well positioned geographically to extend its distribution system to the south. And then on the wastewater side, the two alternatives are to develop a wastewater solution that's only the Keystone planning area, or for the city of Brawley to think in the future that because of our wastewater treatment plant being located so far to the north, maybe it makes sense to take a portion of the southern service area of our existing wastewater collection system and diverting that waste stream to a future facility located to the south of the city boundary. So it would theoretically free up some of the existing wastewater treatment plant for future capacity, but have the city enter into arrangements with a benefit area that's to the south of city boundaries. So I don't have numbers and details for you. What I do need is either support or opposition to the concept of looking at facilities outside of city limits.
Well, I can tell you, for us to modify our wastewater treatment plant, or our water plant, to participate in that project, we're talking millions of dollars. And without those numbers to come to this council for us to even consider, I think that's asking for a commitment that's just not doable.
Yeah,
I've heard numbers as high as $14, $15 million. Dennis is
well, the prior resolution, I believe depending on the action you take, you wouldn't be committed to a course of action. I think I would suggest that if you're going to think about it at all, that it's basically a consideration of the concept. I think everybody recognizes that you're not in a position without that information to make a commitment to do anything. I think by the same token, if the city is not interested in even going down that road at all, I think they would like to know that as well. So I think you can take an action that would certainly not commit you to a particular course of action.
And I thought that was the action that we took before, was for our city to dialogue with the other cities and the counties to see what that was without a commitment, to see what these numbers are going to be and what the impact was going to be on our city. And I don't see any of that here. Right.
So their specific request is that they'd appreciate any update we may have regarding the City of Brawley's interest in continuing this effort of dialogue, of discussion, and future potential commitment.
And again, let's not get it twisted. I don't have a problem with dialoguing, but for us to look at making a commitment, we need to have some kind of numbers and factors in front of us to.
I don't think you're asking for a commitment. Yeah. You're just asking if we want to continue the conversation.
The discussion, right.
Yes or no?
Basically, the discussion of the concept.
I have one concern. Why is it that the City of Imperial turned it down? I mean, they're closer to that site. And also, we did back in 2010 we told former city manager Gary Boros that we wanted to participate to a certain extent to see how much it would cost and it was going to foot the bill. And I don't know whether this is the first time I see this coming back to us. If we do again, we will, mention to you, tell you, Rosanna, that's basically where we sit again, and with no commitments, because like Councilman Campbell stated, we were told that that water treatment plant would cost about actually not 14 but $16 million.
Something like that.
And who's going to foot the bill? As it is, we have our own problems in our hand, and just to take that route.
One item for the council's consideration is that you could place conditions on further exploration, that the entire cost of capital construction, staffing, and maintenance shall be borne by the service area, for instance. Or you can say, no, we're not interested, or our needs are too great within our city limits, and we're struggling with what we have.
I think that could be very true, obviously, in our discussions, but I think it's pretty simple. I just heard in some of the discussion here, bottom line is we're dialoguing. I think I would assume as a city collectively should be very open and interested in any potential future development. This could be years out, but I certainly believe that we want to be part of that discussion.
Right, and I agree with the commitment to dialogue. I think we need to talk, because as our growth occurs out in that area, as the city continues to grow, as we annex more areas and stuff, we certainly need to look at the future, and that's part of the future area of development. It's part of the enterprise zone. Some of that does relate back to the enterprise zone, and it also is an area that we're going to have to mutually consider providing services, because we may ultimately indirectly provide services anyway. This has been an ongoing discussion that we've had, and so my whole thing behind this is dialogue is good. I think as long as we're not committing to millions of dollars either way, as long as we're not making a decision to spend the city's money, and as long as that development pays its fair share, I guess is the way I want to look at this. Currently, we may provide services to other areas outside of our city where they don't necessarily pay a full share, and I think we need to ensure that does occur. And I think with this or anything else, it's all just talk right now, and I think it's a future thing, but that might be 10 or 15 years into the future. But I don't want to commit to any kind of dollar amounts, certainly. I mean, I think we would be foolish to do so without a better, closer look at all of that.
And Sam, you're exactly right. That's what we agreed to back in 2010.
And I think that's what we'll agree to continue the dialogue, but that's all that we're really doing.
References an MOU, obviously. I wasn't specifically or had that document in my hand, but is that something that doesn't have to be this moment that I'd like to...
We can get you the copy of that document.
Yeah, I think we all...
Oh, the MOU is the document, the reso, or the action attested by the clerk and signed by the mayor at the time.
That's the MOU.
That is,
Okay.
it's a one and a quarter page MOU.
But then looking at that, I would say if we're in support of that, it has no financial commitment whatsoever, but it really just pretty much restates what we're talking about. So I would be in favor of continuing that MOU.
Right.
Or the spirit of that MOU, that document.
I think I'm in agreement, and when I read through the MOU, it doesn't necessarily obligate us to pay any kind of money out. I think it's more just a discussion document.
Okay, that is the direction staff and I need. Thank you.
All right. Now we'll take up item 4C, which is the emergency item.
Honorable Mayor, council members, yes, Arellano, Public Works Director, Valley Petroleum, as a response to Council Member Campbell concerns, they did some tests on the soil surrounding the fuel tank, and it looks they went as low as deep as 6 feet below the tank, and it looks like with every foot of soil they go they excavate, it goes about 8% down the level of contaminants. So I'm from the sample taken right below the tank and the sample taken at 6 feet of the tank, I'm estimating that probably they're going to get to a good level of clean soil at 12 feet. They are the quote estimates removal between 15 and 20 feet. So as you say, it's a very good approximation. However, it's not a set value. It could be more, it could be less, but that's what we believe. It's a good estimate.
And if it's more, who's going to be responsible for the extra dollars?
The city will be at this point. We're taking the money out of the contingency for the project, but the tank was located in city right of way. It was underneath the sidewalk on the plaza, so it is our responsibility to mitigate.
And I understand there was a relatively small tank, 500 gallons or something, and they had prepared the tank and filled it with cement or
So that was
sand
the police department.
That was
Tank
the tank
that
over
was-
here. This one's at the transit.
Right.
This one was also.
It was also very small. It dates back to the 1940s, and it was mitigated at that time to their standards. It was full of sand, and that soil, I think the volume was 5 drums that has to be treated as hazardous waste, so it has to go to a special landfill. So other than that, the soil surrounding the tank is not considered hazardous waste at this point.
Yasmin, we had no idea the tank was there.
No idea, sir.
Because during the groundbreaking, a Brawley resident came to me and said a tank was there. They said, there's a tank there. And I don't know who, I can't remember who it was that told me that. And they said that they'll find a tank because I know there was a tank there. And it might have been an older resident. I don't know. And they said, there's a tank there. And everybody said, no, there's no tank there.
It was the site of a former gas station. It was
Right.
not disclosed in the environmental assessment.
Right. It was also the site of a car lot, and they had certain cars parked
Sure.
there.
They probably
But
had
prior to
fuel for
that,
the vehicles
they
there
might
at
have
one
had
point.
fuel for the vehicles there at one point or another. But a Brawley resident did come to me and say, there is a tank there.
Yeah, a lot of those places. The
it was
chamber was a
interesting.
gas station, that sort of thing.
It's just an interesting thing that during the groundbreaking, somebody, or maybe it was even may have been before the groundbreaking. I don't remember who the resident was, but they said there's a tank there.
They
So
didn't-
sometimes maybe we need to talk to somebody over the age of 80 or 90 to discover if the tank,
At least they didn't say.
if things are there.
At least they didn't say Jimmy Hoffa was there.
No, and he wasn't. I guess they didn't find him, but they did say that.
Is there any more discussion?
Well, my concern with all this is we almost have to do this. We don't have really any choice. And so, so I'll call for a motion on it.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the expenditure for the emergency item.
Second.
We've got an accompanying resolution declaring an emergency.
Okay. Would we like to have the resolution read?
perhaps the maker of the motion might be willing to modify the action to adopt resolution declaring an emergency, ratifying action taken by the city manager, and approval of emergency soil removal at the Transit Transfer Station to Valley Petroleum Equipment, Inc. in the amount of $68,796.40.
I amend my motion to include the language by the city manager.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
All right. Any further, does that include the resolution? Let me just ask that question. Okay. Okay, and so, is there any other discussion on the item? Okay, if not, I'll call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we'll go to item 3F, which we pulled from the consent agenda to approve the general plan annual progress report.
And Mayor Ketchum, I think Gordon Case will come up here to the microphone if there are any questions. Just wanted to make you aware that we did receive a copy of the annual progress report after our agenda posting, although we did have the item properly listed in the agenda. We received it at 5:36 p.m., so it wasn't possible to include it in our agenda distribution. And with that, if you have any questions, our planning director would be happy to answer them.
Give us just a moment.
Sure. If I just may recap what this is, it's the annual report that's required by the Office of Planning and Research and also the Housing and Community Development. It's just an administrative report. It's for review and acceptance by the governing body. It gets sent to HCD and to OPR once you look it over. It's like I said, it's for informational purposes. The portion that was late was the portion that deals with the housing that we have a consultant do that has to go through all the building records. The first portion is my portion, so it's those tables you see at the end that arrived just a little bit late on Thursday of last week. So if you have any questions, like I said, it's more information. It doesn't deal with changing policy. It's just giving you an update on the policies that we had when we adopted the housing element and where we are in the implementation of that process.
Okay, thank you, Gordon. Do anybody have any questions for Gordon on this report? They haven't had a long time to look at it, I know, but no questions? No. I'll entertain a motion. To approve. We have to approve the general plan annual progress report.
Okay, I move that we approve the
general plan.
General plan that's ready.
Okay. General plan annual progress report.
I second.
Second. I have a second. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Gordon. Okay, now we'll go to departmental reports and informational items. And the first on that is record of building permits from February 2013.
This is simply an information item for the benefit of the council to see what activity has been occurring in the city, and this represents the month of February 2013.
Anybody have any questions on that report? No. Okay. Moving right along to any other departmental reports? Nothing else? Okay. City council reports. I'll start with Donnie.
Yes, thank you. I know we had Katie at the top during public comment, already mentioned the Joint Strike Fighter, so I will not obviously go through some of the details of the two meetings I went to, but I do want to report out that Thursday night, 5 o'clock, it's scheduled to go till 8 o'clock. It's going to be important. I do want to emphasize from my learnings from the couple meetings that I have been to, that this is the only opportunity to hear from the public. It'll be very important, if it is important to you, that this project has some possibility of keeping Imperial County competitive. With that, a couple thoughts I thought were interesting with the forward progress we've made as a renewable energy hub, and the current infrastructure that we have is one of the elements that make us actually very competitive for this. So I do urge the public, I do urge my fellow council members that are able to attend. It'll be worth attending and certainly show support. Outside of that, several events have been very busy, but State of the City address, obviously with the fair going on down there, spent many nights down there, highlighted with a a short interview with one of our local stations, KROP. Had an opportunity to do a little discussion about being a part of the council now. Also, the NAF Air Show, I will say my personal experience, one of the hottest on record that I've been to. But again, needless to say, there were thousands of attendees, so it was really neat to see. Always a good opportunity to meet people from all around the world, which I always think is pretty neat. Also, attended the Doves Monte Carlo night, always a positive event, and I will note was very, very well attended for the many I've been to. And along with that, participated in a few other events scheduled by staff, but the IVT Gold Line stakeholders input, I did attend with Councilmember Nava, and more so for me was more educational, and certainly was an opportunity for input, but very neat, very good to see that this is moving forward. Outside of that, I did attend the library board meeting. I want to personally thank just the two meetings I've been to. Marjo Mello that does a great job in helping to facilitate the meeting, but I'm always amazed at the volunteers and the citizens we have that put their time in and have a tremendous amount of pride in what they represent. And certainly the library is one of those. Diane Lord, Judy Grant, Dixie Smith, Ronald Stillman, and Elizabeth Lorenzen. It's been a pleasure, again, getting to meet these folks and work with them on the library board meetings. And the final comment I would like to make is our strategic workshop, which we had yesterday. I felt my takeaway 24 hours later was it was a great start to open up that dialogue amongst my fellow council members, and certainly engaging the public on that, because we do care and we do take very seriously the input that we get from our citizens. And I thought that was a great dialogue, and certainly I got a lot out of it from hearing from my fellow council members. That's it.
Okay. George?
I have a little bit of a fever, so I'll pass today. But.
Okay. Don?
I also attended the ICTC Go Line conference with Mr. Couchman. We talked about a lot of different ideas and stuff for some movement of our folks throughout the city. I think that went real well. I want to commend staff and our city manager and Mr. Couchman for the state of the city. That was a lot of good, refreshing news for what's going on in our city, and looking forward for things to move forward. And I think we're going to get there. It's a little tough, and sometimes we have to make tough decisions. And it always reminds me sometimes, when George said a lot of times we have to speak about and make decisions on things that we're not comfortable with. But I think that's what our responsibility is, and I appreciate the fact that we get along well and we make those decisions and take care of our residents. So I want to thank our staff again and everyone, and may God continue to bless you guys and your family. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Miguel?
Okay. I was gone most of the time, 7 days. I spent in Sacramento, work-related training. I attended the State of the City address. It was very nice. Sammy did a good job out there. And that's basically it. I do want to send kudos to Richard Rubio and your long list of employees for taking care of beautiful parks. I believe 12, 13 parks. It feels nice when you're out there at work or in the community and you have folks from other cities complimenting on the beautiful parks that we have here in Brawley. And I want to commend you for that, Richard. I know you have just about 4 workers, which we could have more, maybe beautify more parks, but they're used every day. People walking, seniors using it, youth from all ages, adults. Every park, you hardly see a park at certain hours that is unoccupied. So appreciate for the work and what you've done. Make sure your staff knows about it, Richard.
Okay.
That's all I have to.
Okay. Well, my report is I had a short interview with KROP at the fair, as Don did. It was interesting. They just wanted to talk a little bit about the city, and so I went over there and accommodated them one evening. Overall Economic Development Commission meeting, I attended that, and I will be attending another one, I think, coming up here this week. State of the City address, I appreciate certainly the city staff being there, the members of the public, the press, and everybody, and all the support I received on that. And I thought it went well. The breakfast was great. I think that's what most people were there for. But it was a great event, and I do appreciate city staff and the chamber and everybody being there. Thank you very much. I attended the Renewable Energy Summit for 3 days in my capacity, both as the elected official for Brawley, but also as in my capacity at 8 Minute Energy. I thought that was a good event, very well attended, a lot of networking going on, and it was a long event all last week. But I thought there was a lot of renewable energy people out there. There's still a lot of interest in renewable energy here in Imperial County, and certainly developments are occurring as we speak, and money's being invested, and I think that's a real positive for our county and valley. I did go to the 16th annual air show. It was a large event, very warm. Practically too warm, I think, for a lot of people there, and that was an interesting deal. But it was a great event. There was a lot of people there, a lot of people from Brawley there. I think I saw Richard. He was out there with his family, and a lot of other people. And someone at that event complimented us on our parks and our Little League program and everything that goes on here in Brawley. And I thought that was important because it was a very high up individual, and he actually specifically brings his children here to Brawley to be here in Brawley with our events, because he said this is a very nice place to do that. And so he actually requested waivers and brings his children over here in order to do that. Thought that was very interesting, and it just shows that we're out there in the community. And I also attended the Doves fundraising event, well attended. I also attended the stakeholder meeting regarding the transportation line, and Don and we gave them some pretty good ideas and some other input from our aspect from the city. The strategic planning meeting, I'm glad that was accomplished, and while it may be just basic, at least it gives us something to work from. And that's all I have to report. Thank you very much. And the treasurers.
I thought you were done.
Go ahead.
I didn't for myself in the public meetings. I thought we were going to discuss wastewater treatment plant. Article in the paper here.
Would you please come up to the microphone and state your name and everything?
I'm sorry, but I thought we were going to have open discussion on that article here today.
Go ahead.
You guys read the newspaper today?
Yeah, but if it's not on the agenda, then we normally don't have open discussion. But feel free to spend a few minutes.
Wastewater, I thought it was.
Was it? Yes.
That's why I didn't do it open, because I thought we were going to discuss it during. But the manager said it was two different items. My concerns were, listen to everybody, that Mr. Gale stated that the water plant was in deep. Let me read my quote. It's needed so much work, and by reading this article here, stating that we needed to fix it. That's why it appeared that's why you guys were raising the rates. That's what people read this. So that's why I came to discuss it. I thought we were going to discuss it. So I didn't know we were going to discuss it. But just anyway, the problem is if you're not increasing the rates because the plant needs repairs.
Excuse me, Hugo, could you right here, Hugo?
Yes.
Your name?
Hugo Dominguez, 1292 Trail Street.
Okay.
Neighbor of the Brawley B plant.
Okay.
Yeah. So that brought my questions tonight. I wasn't sure it was the right time to do it, but because you said it wasn't part of why they're raising the rates. As a citizens, I'm not in favor of supporting that fee, because they should be taking care of that. Because the problem is there's too much ammonia going into New River. That's why we got fined to begin with. That's why we built that $23 million plant to address that issue. And what I see here is that there's still an issue there because we got fined. And so for the city council, for the city of Brawley, you council people, to raise our rates to help subsidize that water plant, I think that's wrong. We shouldn't have to pay, the people in the Brawley don't have to pay on their backs to keep profiting the beef plant. And I've been finding that beef plants that started. I still smell it for 10 years, 12 years. That smell. Every once in a while you're outside and you get that smell. I've called numerous times, and so I'm not a fan of the beef plant, because when the guys went to begin with, they said, "What's it going to smell? What's it going to smell?" Now, 10 years later, I'm still smelling it. I'm sure people around here they can verify that. But the question is, why don't you guys enforce their law? They're breaking laws by emitting too much ammonia down the drain, so the city of Brawley can't handle that ammonia. So that's why, like Mr. Gale said, it needs repair. Why isn't it? It's a brand new plant. Why are we having to spend more money to fix that brand new plant that we spent $23 million because we can't handle that ammonia? I've talked to different people, and so that's my concerns.
If I may offer just a couple of clarifying points.
Okay.
The first is that the administrative civil complaint, the topic of the regional board's action against the city of Brawley relative to national beef, that actually is on the agenda tonight, but it's closed session because it's potential litigation. So it's not an item that's scheduled and on the agenda tonight. I regret that the article as it was written suggests that tonight's action has to do with water and sewer rates for regular customers, existing customers.
Right.
The action that the council took tonight was to look at how new development is affected when it goes to pull permits and has to pay fees.
Okay.
So the council was talking about water and wastewater capacity fees for new development. It's not about the current customer base. And regrettably, I know our planning commissioner, Mr. Jay Goyal, was quoted in the article, and perhaps the topics got crisscrossed between the existing plant issues, national beef inferences, and water and wastewater capacity fees. So I personally apologize to you for the misunderstanding, and we will be working with our local media to clarify stories in the future so that we don't mislead the public about what is and isn't discussed in a public meeting.
It's just a concern. We've been talking about, I know they have issues.
And
ammonia. There's ammonia, and that's why they built the plant to begin with. Our money paid it. But they're making a profit still, and we're not. With the city of Brawley, I don't know where you don't deal, but it's not business like. Business is not. That's how, in my opinion, I'm just a regular old guy, but that's not how you do business. If the guy's causing this to make me pay out of my pocket, then he needs to pay his fair share too. And that's.
We understand. I understand the confusion though, but what council, my fellow council members decided to increase today was a capacity fee, and that is not to do with the national beef issue whatsoever. So it's something it's for people that are developing new homes, for example.
Okay.
It's what they're paying to connect to our systems. So that's what it is. Yeah.
Well, just the way
I understand.
I understand all of that.
Everybody probably read this.
Right.
I'm sure.
I got emails today with people angry about it. I'm like, no, I had to clarify it.
And Hugo, there's no increase on the utility. On your utility bills on water. So. And I got some calls from residents that, hey, you're going to raise 33% of our water bill.
Whoever can get that report, I'm just...
Okay.
Well,
She's at the rear of the room. You can speak with her directly if you wish.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Moving right along. Okay. Thank you very much. Treasurer's report.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. City manager's report, and I think we have something in writing from you.
Yes. Just a few brief items. Wanted to share with the council that the city attorney, finance director, and I did meet with the county assessor as well as county council and about a half a dozen staff members of county council and the assessor's office to discuss the subject of proposed reduced property values for national beef. I would be happy to update Mr. Reyes directly if it's your wish. There is an item scheduled to go back before the Assessment Appeals Board on April 1st. And when that action is taken, if it isn't pulled from the agenda and contested by National Beef or any other party, the city of Brawley is looking at an impact of approximately $147,000. A couple of items of note that may be of interest to the council is this practice of years after the fact working to appeal a value is a very common one. It's happening in residential areas and has been for the last several years since the housing collapse.
Right.
And we were assured that the commercial reductions that are being sought are not aberrations for the commercial sector. The one item of note that was shared and I thought valuable as an education, and of course would look to our city attorney to comment further if he wished, is that the negotiated settlement, the items that are trade secrets are not available to the public to view. But there are some things we do know about what occurred with National Beef since 2008, and that is that they were part of a purchase by Leucadia companies, and there was a purchase price associated with that acquisition. And if the purchase price were used as the basis for the valuation, the decreased in valuation, we could potentially be looking at $400,000 to $500,000 in a payback scenario of the city. So the county's position was perhaps for this item to move forward in its current form would probably be the lesser of all evils, and that a protest of the amount of payback is not a basis for challenging the valuation. They were extremely gracious and oriented towards educating all of us about the many pressures involved and how difficult it's been to arrive at the values they have arrived at. But I, at least on my end and the finance director's end, we left with the distinct message that while this is an unfortunate set of circumstances, we're not likely to fare better with a challenge.
I think the one item is that thanks to Mr. Carlos Zaragoza, who brought the item to my attention, I forwarded the information over to you. It was already going to be on consent on a Monday, and I think this was a Friday that we discussed it. And so I've seen the figures, and I've seen what the county has looked at and how they evaluated. And I saw what the National Beef proposed, and they seem to come and join in the middle. But I guess in this circumstance, I'd like to see the methodology, number one. Number two, I'd like to see why the county thinks that they're wrong in assessing at that value. So, because obviously there's a significant difference in the valuation.
So those documents they have indicated to us are not available for public review, and maybe what I'll do is hand off to our city attorney for a moment to weigh in on the topic relative to methodology.
The assessment is based on fair market value. And the starting point of the fair market value when there's a purchase involved is the purchase price. Mm-hmm. So that's where the National Beef folks weighed in, and as the city manager indicated, this goes back. They file an appeal every year, and so the assessor's office has been analyzing this for I think what they said several months, and it culminated in the proposed stipulation. The issue when you're trying to move off the purchase price is to the extent the city were interested in engaging in some kind of challenge, there, as Mr. Reyes indicated, there would be some costs involved because everybody's got their experts. Mm-hmm. Obviously, National Beef has their experts weighing in, and the starting point being the purchase price. The county has all of their folks, and they were all in this meeting and talking about what was all involved in that.
I'm not opposed to the figures. What I'm opposed to is if there is not a structured methodology. With any residential purchase, we already know the way they structure that. Purchase price is typically what they base things off of. And they reassess usually every year to see if things have increased or decreased. Sometimes tax values go down, so your property tax bill goes down. Sometimes it increases, especially when the market starts to improve. So I'd like to know how they came to those figures. and why they are so much different today. That's because if it was a negotiated item, that doesn't seem like that would be the appropriate mechanism to assess a tax amount, especially when it's impacting not only the city of Brawley, but it's impacting the school districts and a bunch of other entities. So that's my biggest concern, is the methodology with it. Because if it's a negotiated item, that doesn't sound right at all. I can't just go to the county and say, hey, my house is not worth $165, it's worth $100. And then they say, well, no, let's just meet halfway. I mean, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I didn't get the impression that that's the sort of give and take that goes when they arrive at the stipulation. I was given to understand by the discussion that the county has their methods of assessing and arriving at a fair market value, and that the number that they end up stipulating to is a number that the assessor believes they can justify to an appeals board. So I didn't get when I went into the meeting, I'm thinking, okay, when I think of stipulation, I think of, okay, we're here, you're there, let's split the difference. I think at the end of the day, the obligation of the assessor is to be able to justify the number, and they do that in ways that I think you're familiar with in terms of comps, cost approach, and income approach, and all. And I'm given to understand they look at all of those things in arriving at an opinion about what the fair market value would be. Well, they didn't demonstrate any of those approaches to us, but the indication was that in terms of their analysis, they engaged in all of those exercises.
It's just that the dollar figures it's a wide spectrum of where National Beat thinks they're at and where the county assessor thought they were at. So, and it just coincidentally landed near the center. So,
2 points of interest. One is that we did do active outreach to all the taxing entities. We contacted IVC, the school districts, and Pioneers Hospital. The school districts, interestingly, have a fail-safe for these types of circumstances. They have a fund to tap that keeps them whole. Unfortunately, that won't be the circumstance for the city of Brawley. We'll be facing a future obligation in the next fiscal year. The other just quick item of note was that the notion of pulling the item off the agenda, that action, if we do that, we could potentially be worse off than our current circumstance. And from the city staff point of view, that certainly was a concern. Any six-figure sum that we don't anticipate is a significant one at this point.
Like I said, I'm not opposed to a lesser figure. I mean, it is what it is, right? But I just want to see how it was calculated. That's it. That's all I want to know. Like, I want to see if it makes sense. If it was something that was negotiated, I don't think that would be appropriate. But if it's something that there's a methodology for, if there's a system in place, that they're using, and it's used with everyone else, hey, so be it. That's what it is. But if it's not, that's where we have issues. So.
I understand your perspective. Yeah. So I wanted to give an update to the council on that. Also wanted to thank the Chamber for being a wonderful host of our State of the City address. They pulled all the details together and thankfully assisted with all of the technology as well. They've been wonderful partners to the city in our third annual State of the City address. And on that topic, wanted to share that we have an opportunity before us, which is an invitation for April 16th, 2013 at our San Diego State Brawley campus. We have been asked to join a number of local banks, the Chamber and USDA, in the County of Imperial to host a small business day and lender fair. And the Chamber is inquiring whether the city would be open to a $250 sponsorship. As the council's aware, we don't have line items for these types of activities anymore except as they pertain to special events. And the only budget item is that which falls under the council. So I was hoping to get some feedback tonight. It doesn't have to be formal action, simply feedback on a $250 contribution.
Need a motion for that?
No, we don't need a motion. I think we just need some consensus from everyone. Do we feel that's a worthwhile thing to sponsor.
Definitely. The Chamber of Commerce always there, and in today's world of economic development, it takes everybody's effort, not only the Chamber of Commerce. So, I'm for it, giving a donation of $250. Hey, we gave it to the ACC. Why not the Chamber of Commerce?
Okay.
I would be
It's a good cause.
Don?
Okay.
Ronnie?
Great idea. Yep.
Don? All right, I'm okay.
Okay, thank you.
You have,
We'll
you have
proceed.
consensus. All right.
And that's it for the
And
city
that's
manager's
it for the
report.
city manager's report. Okay. City attorney's report, moving right along. City clerk's report, moving right along. Okay, I don't think that was on the agenda. Okay, we will be going into closed session. We'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back to closed session. Closed session.